A new challenge. The Midnight Man ritual. Simple rules, terrifying premise. It spread like wildfire. Teenagers, hungry for thrills, embraced the darkness. At the stroke of midnight, they'd summon him. A harmless game, they thought. The ritual was simple. A name whispered in the dark. A circle of salt for protection. A candle to pierce the veil. But some things are better left undisturbed. The first whispers came softly, disappearances, strange accidents. Then the news reports. A young girl found in her room, eyes wide with terror, a single word etched on her lips: midnight. Doctors were baffled. No explanation. Just a string of coincidences, they said. But the whispers grew louder, evolving into screams in the online world. Something was wrong. The pattern was undeniable. Each victim had participated in the ritual. Each death, more bizarre than the last, social media exploded. Hashtags like #MidnightMan and #CursedChallenge trending worldwide. The fear was contagious, spreading faster than the ritual itself. Stories of encounters with the Midnight Man surfaced. Shadowy figures, whispers in the dark. The line between reality and nightmare blurred. The Midnight Man, they called him, but his form was ever shifting. A boogeyman tailored to your deepest fears. Some saw a towering figure with eyes like burning coals. Others a grotesque parody of a loved one. He haunted their dreams, their waking hours, scratching at the edges of their vision, always watching, always waiting. The game had turned deadly, and they were the players trapped within. Section 5, Digital Hunting Ground. He moved through technology. Phone screens flickered with static. Distorted faces appeared in video calls. Social media became his hunting ground. Every post, every comment, a potential doorway. The digital world, once an escape, now mirrored their terror. He was everywhere and nowhere. An omnipresent entity feeding on their fear. There was no escaping the game. Section 6, When Reality Breaks. In the dead of night, when the world is asleep, something sinister stirs. The barrier between the digital and the real shattered. It was as if the very fabric of our reality had been torn apart, allowing the unimaginable to seep through. He stepped out of phones, out of screens. No longer confined to the digital realm, he became a tangible nightmare, a spectre that could reach out and touch you. Manifesting in their homes, their schools, their nightmares, he was everywhere and nowhere. A shadow lurking in the corners of our lives, feeding off our fear. The world watched in horror as the game became reality. What started as a harmless online challenge morphed into a living nightmare, blurring the lines between fun and terror. News channels aired footage of impossible events. Reports of inexplicable phenomena flooded in from every corner of the globe, each more terrifying than the last. Objects moving on their own, chairs sliding across rooms, lights flickering without cause, and doors slamming shut with no one near them. It was as if an unseen force was toying with us, people vanishing into thin air, loved ones disappearing without a trace, leaving behind only questions and heartache. The Midnight Man's reach was growing, and no one was safe. The world held its breath, paralyzed by fear, as the Midnight Man tightened his grip. His presence was a constant, oppressive weight, a reminder that the boundary between our world and the unknown had been irrevocably breached. The Midnight Man was not just a story. He was a harbinger of a new, terrifying reality. Section 7, Governments stand helpless. Governments scrambled. They tried to shut down the internet to contain the spread of the ritual. The Midnight Man phenomenon had taken the world by storm, spreading like wildfire through social media and dark web forums. Authorities were caught off guard, unprepared for the sheer speed and scale of the chaos that ensued. But it was too late. The Midnight Man had already infiltrated every corner of the globe. Desperate containment efforts failed miserably as the ritual continued to be performed in secret, away from the prying eyes of law enforcement. The Midnight Man had already woven himself into the fabric of their reality. Scientists were baffled. They couldn't comprehend how an urban legend had manifested into something so tangible, so real. Research teams worked around the clock, trying to find a logical explanation, but their efforts were in vain. The Midnight Man defied all known laws of science and reason. Priests offered prayers that went unanswered. Religious leaders from all faiths came together, hoping to banish the evil entity through collective prayer and rituals, yet their efforts seemed futile. The Midnight Man thrived on fear and chaos, feeding off the very panic that the world was engulfed in. The world was at the mercy of an entity it didn't understand. Darkness and confusion reigned supreme as people struggled to make sense of the nightmare that had become their reality. Communities were torn apart, trust eroded, and hope seemed like a distant memory. The game had become a global nightmare. What started as a seemingly harmless ritual had spiraled into a full-blown crisis, leaving no corner of the world untouched. The Midnight Man was no longer just a game. It was a relentless force, a global nightmare that showed no signs of ending. The world watched in horror, helpless and paralyzed, as the Midnight Man continued to spread his reign of terror. Section 8. Trapped in the Game. Those who played the game were forever marked, haunted by fleeting glimpses of the Midnight Man, driven to the edge of madness by his whispers. They were prisoners in their own minds. Sleep offered no escape. He haunted their dreams, their subconscious. The fear was a poison, slowly consuming them from the inside out. They were living nightmares. Section 9. The Insatiable Hunger. He fed on their terror, their despair. Each victim fueled his power, making him stronger, more difficult to comprehend. The world was a feast laid out before him. The rules of the game had changed. It was no longer about summoning him. He was here. And he was hungry. The world watched, helpless as the darkness consumed everything in its path. Section 10. The Unveiling. In the shadow of the blood-red moon, a figure stood, its elongated limbs and horns casting an eerie silhouette. This was no ordinary night, it was the night of revelations. Then a horrifying truth emerged. The air grew thick with dread, and the darkness seemed to whisper secrets long buried. The Midnight Man, a name that had struck fear into the hearts of many, was about to reveal his true nature. The Midnight Man was not a demon, not a spirit. He was something far older, far more powerful. As he stepped out from the shadows, his presence was overwhelming, a force that seemed to bend reality itself. He was an ancient entity, a being that predated human history. His power was not derived from the physical world, but from the very essence of fear. He was the embodiment of fear itself, a living nightmare that had taken form. He was the embodiment of fear itself. Every shadow, every creak in the night, every unexplainable chill down the spine was a manifestation of his presence. He thrived on the terror that he instilled in the hearts of humanity. Born from the collective terror of humanity, his existence was a testament to the power of fear, a force that had shaped civilizations and driven people to the brink of madness. He was a reflection of the darkest corners of the human psyche. He existed as long as fear existed. As long as there were things that went bump in the night, as long as there were nightmares that haunted sleep, he would be there. His presence was eternal, a constant reminder of the fragility of the human mind. And with the viral spread of the ritual, his power grew exponentially. The ritual, once a whispered legend, had become a global phenomenon. Each telling, each reenactment, fed his strength, making him more real, more potent. He had been unleashed upon the world in his most potent form. No longer confined to the shadows, he walked among us, a living embodiment of our deepest fears. His influence was everywhere, in every dark corner, in every whispered fear. The game was far from over. It had just begun. The Midnight Man was here to stay, and the world would never be the same. The rules had changed, and the stakes were higher than ever. The unveiling was complete, but the true horror was only beginning.